Hey everyone, welcome back to Direct Station, where politics and planets collide and converge. I'm Kate Carey. For those just tuning in, we're tracking the planetary and earthbound events happening all around us each day. My goal here is to invite you into a conversation about the possibility that the sky and these extraordinary events in human history are related and fascinating and helpful if we want to understand our own power, our own assignment, our own potential as individuals and as a collective. I know it's goofy. If you're not a person who cares at all about astrology or astrologers, or even conversations at Thanksgiving with the one person in the family who would like to inform everybody. I am that person, I admit, but I do want to invite you into it, and I do want to create space for all of us to learn about it together as we learn about this undoing of what we've understood to be our country. And a redoing of what is our country and what our country can be. I believe with everything I am that America can become, once and for all, something that uplifts humanity. And this is my effort to get us all ready to do that. Personally, individually, collectively, spiritually, if that's something you're interested in, but it's not required in order to understand these facts about the intersection of the sky and the earth and the beings that move here and the bodies that move there and the ways in which they talk to each other. I should tell you that astrologists are telling us that it's really the end of this week and on into March where this thing really heats up. So stick with me maybe as it unfolds and we can figure out what it means together. What these wise ones are saying is that it's now through the end of April that is the meatiest part of our year. Not necessarily that the skies will clear as the spring truly arrives, but that we'll at least know what sort of situation is unfolding. It's so mobile right now. Everything changes and intensifies every day. And it's my understanding that that will continue to be true through the end of April. So strap in, nourish yourself, build community, sleep, fucking hydrate, and get rooted. In fact, if you don't know about energy hygiene, let me pause really quickly to explain this idea to you. It is a 3-part quick meditation to improve your day, or a quick 3-part practice that you can do in 3 minutes or less, 2 even. Step 1 would be ground. So find the earth beneath you and speak to it. Ask her to hold you. Ask her to remember you. Ask her to help you remember her. Step 2, clear. Find a little egg or cave or bubble around you and sweep it or leaf blower it or scrub it with mental bleach. But clean your energetic field. It is yours, and people left their stuff in it yesterday. Send everything out that doesn't belong to you. Even people you love, even people you'll welcome back. Just reclaim the space as yours, because it is yours and it is only yours. And step 3, protect. Call in your protection. Set guardians at your gates. You can use fictional characters like the Gold Cloaks from Game of Thrones. I use them a lot. They're on my side in that story. Above, below, to each side, front and back. So you need 6 guards. You have 6 gates. I swear to God, if you do this every day, it takes 3 minutes. I mean, it could take an hour, of course. If you try it, it'll change your day every day, I swear, and it builds over time. You definitely don't have to call it meditation. Just think of it as hygiene, energetic hygiene, like teeth, You could do it while you brush your teeth even. Okay. If you stuck with me for that, you are my true hero. Today's sky is fun. I can't wait to tell you about it. I want to frame the whole moment in terms of the North Node and the South Node. If you're new here, I want to very briefly explain this. The North Node is where we're going, and the South Node is where we've been. These points are physical points in the sky that mark the place where the moon's path and the sun's path cross. In 2 places, right? They intersect in 2 spots. Imagine 2 giant oblong hula hoops, and they cross in those 2 places. These mathematical points are the North and the South Node. And they move because we move. So they just moved, as they do every 18 months or so, into a new part of the sky, which means we're in a new moment, a new phase. You're going to hear me make claims about parts of the sky and planets and what these parts of the sky or these planets signify. I'm making these claims because astrologers, for the most part, believe it or not, are scholars. They have a set of histories. They have sacred ancient texts that include Western heroes like Ptolemy and Galileo, but the sacred texts and observations and lessons and truths about patterns of life on Earth in relation to patterns in the sky were documented in one way or another by Egyptians, Babylonians, Persians, Indians, Mayans. I mean, name your culture. There are cycles of movement in the sky observable to humans that are predictable to the smallest grain of sand. And those patterns, if studied, which they repeat themselves, right? And so you can see, oh, when X happens, Y also occurs, right? So when those patterns, if studied, can be connected to human phenomena in shockingly persistent ways, right? So if you have a 2-year cycle, what happens every 2 years in human existence? Like what happens at that exact moment in those 2-year sequences, right? It's observable. You can go look for it. And way more now with the internet. It's real easy to do. How practitioners use the meanings or connect or leverage them for human navigation is one thing that might change depending on which tradition or which teachers they're in or they're of. But like the planets govern stuff and parts of the sky govern stuff. And that's sort of universal knowledge at this point. And while the knowledge continues to expand because time keeps happening and the events keep affirming and reifying these assumptions, they just stay really stable. So when I say parts of the sky are about X or Y, or a planet is about Q or Z, it's not me making it up or having a favorite book I'm thinking of. It's me doing my best to take the smallest bits of that available knowledge and make it moderately meaningful to people who assume that this is about Professor Trelawney and shawls and giant glasses and cooking sherry. I mean, ladies like that. Dig astrology, generally. That's certainly true. But I assure you that this stuff is super real, and it's not something to believe in. It's stuff happening around you that you can ignore or be curious about. Like, why does the water go away from the cup if I leave it there for a few days? You don't need to know. And you don't need to get a PhD in environmental engineering or physics. But it's still true when you look into it or not, you know? Like earlier I was talking about your energetic field. That thing is there, whether you work with it or not. The seen and the unseen. I'm telling you, astrologers are sophisticated scholars who like pick a part of it and go deep for years and write books about very granular aspects of this field. But you've seen the ones that Barnes & Noble carry, which are about your love life or money or luck or something. Pop psychology works on astrology too, right? But there are sophisticated scholars who aren't on the shelf, on that self-help shelf, unless they go out of their way to share their discoveries in a way that lay people can access the information. But honestly, how many scholars do you know who do that? They can't all be Heather Cox Richardson, you know? Okay, so the nodes. These mathematical points have changed their parts of the sky. They've changed location. They've entered Pisces in the north and Virgo in the south. So we have experienced a nodal shift as these nodes move to the new parts of the sky. So the north node, the direction in which we're heading, is the place of healing collective wounds. And we are draining, leaving behind the stuff where the south node is, which is the Virgo part of the sky, which is rigidity and imposed rules. I'm going to bring this up a lot for now because it helps explain what's happening and is more powerful than solar eclipses or other wow events like that. Like, it's a really big deal. So, and again, it's called a nodal shift. So that nodal shift is important. Where things are is important. So I want to start with an earthbound event that might seem small in the grand scheme of things, but carries profound symbolic weight and is one of the surest signs of hope on the planet at this time. And it's available to the naked eye. Yellowstone National Park, as part of something called the Buffalo Treaty, has, just for the first time, returned 11 buffalo to Blackfeet Reservation in Saskatchewan, Canada. Remember, these borders were created by the white man and are arbitrary to Indigenous folk. I want to read you something one of the elders and leaders of this project said. This is Jenny Bearcub Stiffarm. She said, "Our old prophecies say that when the buffalo returns, our people will be strong again. We've been through so much trauma the last couple of 100 years. Bringing back the buffalo is a way for us to take a look at that hurt right in its face and say, with the help of the spirit of the buffalo, we can overcome this. She talks about the children in her community who have never seen a buffalo in real life, but have grown up knowing their significance and their history and are now welcoming them home. That might be the most inspiring thing I've heard this month. So this is not just a wildlife conservation story or even a reparations story. This is about redrawing maps according to the fucking buffalo and the people who live for the ages in harmony with the earth. You see, it's about creating new purpose for this time with old knowledge. With the North Node in Pisces pointing us towards healing collective wounds, these buffalo represent a new charting of possibility, a map that includes restoration rather than only extraction. And the South Node is in Virgo, leaving behind the patterns of control and domination. Killing the buffalo was a strategy of conquest, and it's being undone, stone by stone. You see? Wild, right? Beautiful, even, maybe. Okay, second topic today is the mass dismissal of government workers. Are you noticing the use of the word mass so much lately? Mass incarceration, mass deportation, even mass firing now. That alone signifies to us that things have been and are more now than ever happening in big fucking numbers. Large-scale events and movements of people and dollars and information on the planet. Big things, big times. The sky explains this if we want to know why the water is leaving the cup, you know? So let's understand this one. Tens of thousands of dedicated public servants, like park rangers and AIDS doctors and IRS agents and weather scientists, and nuclear operators, defense supply contractors. I could go on. We all could. And they suddenly are finding themselves adrift, out of work, out of the institutions to which so many of them have devoted their lives. They're in grief on the sidewalk with contents of their desks and boxes, if they're lucky. If they're not, they're in another country that might be less safe or less peaceful or less paved or less Wi-Fi'd, less supportive. And they are cut off from government protection, encrypted phones to discuss travel, from income, from information. And they're adrift. And they're needing to use their wits and their friends and their base emotional or physical strength to reorganize and rebuild their lives. These aren't just statistics, but human beings whose service is being disregarded. The maps they followed, the purposes they served, are being redrawn without their input or even the human courtesy of a warning. This event represents a profound planetary convergence. What I mean by that is that a lot of factors are converging at once. Like, it's one thing to have school starting in September, or it's one thing to have a global pandemic, or it's one thing to have a business expand, or it's one thing to have a debilitating toothache, right? And if any one of those events are happening alone, it's a lot. And a lot of times they do happen alone. But what if there was somebody in September of 2020 who had all these events converging at the same time? It complicates and grows the intensity of everything when multiple things are happening at once, even if some of them are good. So that's what's happening in the sky right now. I tend to pick a few to go in on, but the wow factor of this period is about the number of holy shits that seem to be occurring in sequence or all at once. There's a bunch of stuff affecting this mass firing thing. First is the South Node that we were talking about. So if the North Node is heading towards collective healing, that's where we're going. We are first in the dangerous death throes of the old way, right? So you're ending something and beginning something at the same time. That's how life tends to work, right? So while we're heading towards collective healing and we're seeing signs of it, we are also simultaneously in the death throes of the old way. So the stuff represented in the part of the sky where the South Node is, that's Virgo. That's what we're letting go of. We're undoing. So Virgo is about systems. A Virgo is about rigid systems, even. So I'm a Virgo. Right. So when I was born, the moment, it's minute, right? The moment I was born, there were like 18 things in the sky, in the Virgo part of the sky. So when I tell you that I have rigid systems of how things get done around here, My girls laugh at me because, like, don't even touch the dishes, please. That does not go there. That's the shadow side of Virgo. Dishes are harmless, but if I'm harming people because I'm playing that out in a larger or unconscious way, which I assure you I have done, that gets ugly, right? So the South Node is in Virgo and is a sign that we are in the death throes of undoing systems. Some of them have not been working. Many of them have. And the indiscriminate ways in which they're being disassembled is kind of the point, right? That's the domination. That's the destruction. So harmful ones are being undone, and I'm so sorry, but the helpful ones are being undone too. Virgo governs civil service, systems of order, systems of organization, duty, even responsibility to the other, harmful or helpful hierarchical structures, so that we can all think of many hierarchies that are toxic, right? Are dangerous, or harmful, or destructive, or violent even. But we can also think of, and we're watching now, how the chain of command works and doesn't work, right? All of this is going through an undoing. With the South Node in Virgo, we're witnessing the deliberate draining away of service systems, the dismantling of bureaucracy, and the undoing of the very idea that government should employ people to help people. These civil servants, working in an imperfect system and showing up every day with devotion, embody the Virgoan archetype: detail-oriented, dedicated to process, committed to serving others through established systems. Their mass dismissal represents the South Node's function of releasing old patterns. The grief of this hour is that in order to undo the harmful parts, and there were many, there are systemic and human casualties that are being caught up in the storm. Just as the hurricane is indiscriminate, so too is the draining and the undoing, the clearing out, that the South Node does. Now, this seems rather a lot. I'm saying it's a giant wave because of how many things are true at the same time. Another thing that's true, another thing that's happening right now, in addition to this nodal shift, is something we've been talking about for a few days. That's Mars. So Mars is the planet of action, aggression, weaponization, among many other things. Mars is in Cancer, the part of the sky having to do with home, security, even the parts of one's identity associated with relationships, community, lineage, nation, homeland. So like if my father did this work before me, or I come from an FBI family, or we're just global aid workers, me and literally all the people I love, Mars is there mucking things up. It's enabling the weaponization of systems that are meant to protect us and our homes and our families, right? These workers now face home in jeopardy, mortgage payments in jeopardy, health insurance suddenly in question, financial security threatened. Mars in Cancer reveals the emotional vulnerability created when systems of care are dismantled. But listen, Mars was going backward in this territory that meant the parts of the U.S. harmed by all this mucking up are awakened too. So now Mars is stationed in a single degree for a few weeks, but crawling forward within that degree, it's going to move faster soon. Second week of March. And so we are like little popcorn kernels beginning to rattle, but not yet popping. We and the people we love and the parts of the nation, the homeland that we love, are starting to move, starting to consider how to act, starting to feel emboldened. You see signs of it everywhere. My favorite example from today is the hilarious AI-generated video that appears on the TV screens of the HUD building in D.C. yesterday. On the first day, all the workers were supposed to somehow reappear in the physical office, regardless of obstacles. In this video, the president is, it's an AI-generated video. The president is, let's say, attending to the exposed toes of his billionaire friend. Right? The raw emotions of the sky land of Cancer are activated now. There is always, always, always a consequence, and there is always a sign that the undoing is at hand. Another factor in this undoing of the government is the spiciest thing on the menu for today, which is a convergence of Mercury and Saturn in the sky. Mercury is a planet of comms, information, Saturn, the planet of boundaries, limitations, a sort of unfeeling, unapologetic no. But like, no, remember that no is a thing we need sometimes, right? If you have a 2-year-old, you create a no environment. Sorry, you create a yes environment. Never mind, that's a bad example. No's are helpful. Rules are helpful sometimes. They're harmful, but they're sometimes also helpful. You see, each planet has its helpful and harmful stuff, as each of us do. So those two are together today, which gives us a wild opportunity. It's been causing a lot of this as this conjunction has come closer. It is today, they're together today. When planets are getting near each other or moving weird, like the sort of effect builds and then ebbs. So it's not just today, but today's the day. All this harsh communication to the employees. You've got all this sobering communication about collective systems. You've got unapologetic, unfeeling no's happening. You've got the structural dissolution of institutional information, right? Like information is being lost. You've got authority figures limiting speech, Saturn limitation, Mercury speech. The dismissals aren't just being executed, they're being communicated with Saturn's cold efficiency, cutting off not just livelihoods, but voices of institutional knowing. This conjunction, though, listen to me, it has an assignment in it. It demands we speak precisely about what's happening to these workers, not just as statistics, but as human beings whose service is being disregarded. It demands speech. It demands clarity. Hell, it brings clarity. Watch around you today, tonight, tomorrow, in the news. You'll see speech. You'll see speaking. Did you hear Jane Fonda the other night? It's actually worth reading a passage here. This is what she said as she accepted an award from her Actors Guild. This is her speaking. Have you ever watched a documentary of one of the great social movements like apartheid or our civil rights movement or Stonewall and asked yourself, would you have been brave enough to walk the bridge? Would you have been able to take the hoses and the batons and the dogs? We don't have to wonder anymore because we are in our documentary moment. That is it. And it's not a rehearsal. This is it. And we mustn't for a moment kid ourselves about what's happening. This is big time serious, folks. So let's be brave. This is a good time for a little Norma Ray or Karen Silkwood or Tom Joad. We must not isolate. We must stay in community. We must help the vulnerable. We must find ways to project an inspiring vision of the future, one that is beckoning, welcoming, that will help people believe that, to quote the novelist Pearl Cleage, on the other side of this conflagration, there will still be love. So there will still be beauty. And there will be an ocean of truth for us to swim in. And then Jane finishes with, let's make it so. I'm a big fan of any Jean-Luc Picard reference. But yeah, Mother has spoken. So this is it. Jane's naming the thing. Saturn is converging with Mercury in the sky, and we are speaking hard, clear truths to each other. And we're going to do that a lot in the next 24 hours. Watch for it. So also, Pluto. There's another one of these phenomena that is happening at the same exact time. Pluto, the planet of depth, transformation, and raw power, and old shit needing worked out, has reached the part of the sky that is the territory of the collective, of the people. That's Aquarius. Man, the month Pluto moved into Aquarius, that's all anybody in the astrology world was talking about. The news was rather focused on something else. It was November 19th, 2024. But astrologers were like, no, that's going on, I know. But look what the sky says. And what the sky was saying is that Pluto was in Aquarius. And astrologers have a common understanding of sort of the category of possibility that represents, because it's happened before in human history. Most recently in 1777 and 1798. Notice anything? That's why when astrologers talk about this time, many of them actually say the French Revolution more than the American Revolution, because this is the time leading up to and completing with the French Revolution. Americans have already done their thing. Some of the themes that happen during Pluto and Aquarius are deep transformation of power structures, one. In other words, Pluto is about change and power and depth. Number two, collective systems being destroyed and rebuilt. So Pluto is about transformation, Aquarius is about the collective. Three, shadow aspects of authority becoming visible. Pluto is shadow, Aquarius is hidden or marginalized groups coming into public awareness. Four, making the invisible visible through social awakening. Aquarius breaks taboos about what can be seen or acknowledged. It brings about revelations that can't be unseen by the collective. Pluto, Mr. Transformation, is in Aquarius. And that's for sure one of the most promising things happening right now. Okay, so there's much more to discuss, but today I want to leave you with one of my two favorite poems in the whole world, just one of them. It is called Remember by Joy Harjo. Harjo is a member of the Muskogee Creek Nation in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and a former poet laureate of the United States. Remember the plants, trees, animal life, who all have their tribes, their families, their histories, too. Talk to them. Listen to them. They are alive poems. Remember the wind. Remember her voice. She knows the origin of this universe. Remember, you are all people, and all people are you. Remember, you are this universe, and this universe is you. Remember, all is in motion, is growing, is you. Remember, language comes from this. Remember the dance language is, that life is. Remember. Remember who you are today, y'all, and attend to, in these 24, 36 hours, what simple, hard, unapologetic truth do you need to communicate, or is being communicated to you? What are you open to? What are you listening for? What is affecting you? Oh, and if you want to have a conversation about what your individual assignment might be as part of this powerful collective, let me know. I'd be happy to do a reading with you. That's all I've got for today. I really look forward to talking to you tomorrow. And yeah, be well, be conscious, be kind. See you soon.